This video covers review number 2, the first 2 pages. So for the first page, we're asked to solve each inequality, and it says to graph the solution, but we're not really going to do that. So we're just solving each inequality. So for problem 1, we use our don't call me after midnight anytime we're asked to solve. I don't have parentheses to distribute. I don't have like terms to combine. I box my variable and I only have one variable, so I don't have anything to move. So my first step is to move that 3 because I need to add or subtract. So that 3 will turn into a minus 3, and I will subtract 3 on both sides. 3.5x gets rewritten and brought down, and 10 minus 3 is 7. So I've done the adding or subtracting. Next, I need to multiply or divide. Because this is being multiplied, I will divide. So 7 divided by 3.5 is 2. X is by itself, so I can box my answer. So problem 2, don't call me after midnight again. No parentheses to distribute. No repeated terms to combine. I box my variable and I only have a variable on one side. Outside of my box is multiplication, so I don't need to add or subtract, which means I only have one step, which is multiplying or dividing. So for problem 2, I'm going to divide both sides by a negative 6. Now, because I divided by a negative 6, I have to remember to flip my sign. So I flip this sign. So it turns into a greater than sign. And then I keep everything else the same. I'm not flipping the entire inequality. I am only flipping the inequality symbol. So on the right side, I'm still left with x. On the left side, negative 18 minus 6 is a positive 3. So x is greater than 3. You could also rewrite it as x is less than 3. So 3 is greater than x, or x is less than 3. Problem 3, still solving. No parentheses that I need to distribute. I do have like terms that I can combine. So the left side is going to stay the same, negative 1/3 x. On the right side, 3 plus 5 is 8. I box my variable and I have nothing to move because I only have one variable. I don't have any addition or subtraction on the same side as my variable. So the only thing I can do is multiply or divide. In this case, I'm going to divide. So on the left side, I'm left with x. Because I divided by a negative, I need to flip my inequality. So my inequality becomes a less than sign instead of a greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. And 8 divided by negative 1/3 is negative 24. Problem 4, still solving. This one I have parentheses, so I need to take that negative 2 and distribute to multiple terms. So negative 2 times x, negative 2 times 5, and the less than and the 8 stay the same. I don't have any terms to combine. I box my variable and I only have one, so I don't have anything to move to the other side. Next, I need to add or subtract. Outside of my box, I have a negative 10, so I'm going to add 10 to both sides. So negative 2x, negative 2x stays on the left side. And then on the right side, 8 plus 10 is 18. I finish by dividing by a negative 2. Because I divided by a negative 2, I have to flip my sign. But everything else stays where it is. So x stays on the left side. 18 divided by 2, that answer stays on the right side. So I flip my inequality symbol, not the entire piece. Problem 5, I don't have any parentheses to distribute. I don't have any like terms to combine. I boxed my variable and I only have one, so I don't need to move variables. Outside of my box, I have a positive 5, so I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. On the left side, negative 3 minus 5 is negative 8. On the right side, I have 2x. Please notice that I did not change my inequality symbol, because even if I add or subtract negatives, positives, I don't move my symbol. I don't change it. I don't flip it unless I multiply or divide by a negative. So to continue solving for x, I'm going to need to divide by 2 on both sides. Negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4, and everything else stays the same. You could also rewrite this and flip everything. So this is switching, not flipping. So this is switching the entire inequality. Flipping happens when you multiply or divide by a negative. So problem 6, I don't have any parentheses to distribute, don't have any like terms to combine, only one variable, so nothing to move. I'm now going to add or subtract, so I subtract 9 from both sides. On the left side, I'm left with negative 3x. On the right side, negative 9 minus 9 is negative 18. My last step is to multiply or divide. I divide by a negative 3. Because I divide by a negative, I flip my inequality, just the direction of the symbol. Negative 18 divided by negative 3 is 6. So if you note, the letter stays the same, the number stays on that same side. I just flip the sign. Problem 7. This time I do have parentheses to distribute. So I take that 3 and multiply it to both terms. 3 times 4x is 12x. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. And everything else stays the same. I don't have any like terms to combine, but I do have variables on both sides when I box my variable, so I will need to move my variable. I'm going to move the 3x because both of these sides have letters and numbers. So I'm moving the smaller one because, as we talked about and we've done a couple of times, anytime I multiply or divide by a negative, I have to flip my sign. So I'm moving the smaller one to not have to flip my sign. So on the left side, 12x's minus 3x's is 9x's. Bring everything else down. I'm then going to add or subtract. Outside of my box, I have a negative 6. So I add 6 to both sides, and 9x is less than 13. I finish by multiplying or dividing. In this case, I divide by 9. And 13 divided by 9 does not work out nicely, so I can just leave it as 13 divided by 9. Problem 8, I have parentheses, so I need to distribute. 1/2 to both terms, so 1/2 times 2x is x. 1/2 times 4 is 2. From this point, I don't have any like terms to combine. I only have one term, so I don't need to move terms. I do need to add or subtract because there's a plus sign outside of my box. So I subtract 2 from both sides, and x is greater than 20. X is by itself, so I don't need to multiply or divide. Problem 7, this time we're dealing with a fraction. Don't let it throw you off. When I look at the fraction, I look at it and say, okay, the calculator's going to do the work for me. I'm just going to follow my don't call me after midnight. So I don't have any parentheses to distribute. I don't have any like terms. I box my x and I don't need to move variables to the same side. I do have a number outside of my box to move by adding or subtracting. So 3 is positive, so I'm going to subtract it from both sides. So 2 over 7x is greater than 4 minus 3, which is 1. My last step is to multiply or divide, so I multiply by 2/7 on both sides. And x is greater than 7 over 2, or the decimal version is 3.5. In order to get 3.5, or 7/2, in order to get this, I put this exactly like I see it in my calculator. 1 divided by alpha y equals 2 over 7, and find my answer. Problem 8, I do have 2 sets of parentheses, so I have to distribute twice. On the left side, -3 times 2 is -6. -3 times -x is a positive 3x. Sign stays the same. And then 6 times x is 6x. 6 times 1 is 6. I don't have like terms to combine, but I do have variables on both sides, so I do need to move. Both of these have variables and numbers on the same sides, so there's not really an advantageous way, like I don't have to move it to one side. I'm going to move the 3x because I don't like dealing with negatives, especially when I have to remember that rule. So -6 is greater than 6x's minus 3x's is 3x's, and then bring down the plus 6. From here, outside of my box, I need to add or subtract, so I subtract 6 from both sides. So -6 minus 6 is -12, which is greater than 3x. And then I finish my problem by multiplying or dividing. In this case, I need to divide both sides by 3. So -12 divided by 3 is -4. So -4 is greater than or equal to x. Or remember, we can switch it, switch the x, switch the sign, switch the side of the number. So we've switched it. Again, we haven't flipped, we've switched the entire piece. So everything is the opposite. Opposite side, I should say. 9 and 10, they want me to write an inequality and not solve it. So 9, Tammy wants to run at least 10 miles per week. So far this week, she's run 4.5 miles. How many more miles must she run this week in order to reach her goal? So M is going to equal miles. So we're going to see how many miles she needs. So she wants to run at least 10 miles per week. So we know we have what she has run and what she wants to run. And she wants it to be greater than 10. So she wants what she has run already eventually to be greater than what she wants. So she has run 4.5 miles, and she can add as many as she wants to that. And that needs to be greater than or equal to 10, because she wants at least 10 miles per week. So what she's running needs to be greater than or equal to 10. Problem 10, what are the possible numbers of notebooks costing $1.39 that can be purchased with $10? So notebooks, you have them at $1.39 each, and you multiply it by however many notebooks you have, and that relates to $10. Now this is the money that you want to spend, and this is the money that you have to spend. And as much as we want it, we cannot spend more than we have. So what we actually spend, or what we want, you could change this to what you actually spend. So what we actually spend needs to be less than or equal to what we have. So $1.39 times N is going to be less than or equal to 10 because you cannot spend more than you have. Problem 11, they want me to write an inequality and solve it. So a car rental company A charges $45 a day to rent a certain car. B charges $30 a day plus 20 cents per mile. For how many miles is the cost at car rental B more than the cost at rental A? So they want to know, where is B greater than A? So for B, we want to know where it's greater than A, and for B, excuse me, we know that it's $30 a day plus 20 cents a mile. And I apologize, we were told m equals miles. So I know that anytime I see the word miles, for how many miles, that I need to use the letter m. That's where I got that from. So we want B to be greater than A. So A is $45 a day. And notice it says nothing about miles. And so since they've given us one day, we don't add another variable in there. We don't do 45 times D. We just leave it as 45. So it's going to be $45 for one day. And then they've asked us to solve it. So I don't have parentheses to distribute. I don't have to combine like terms. I only have one variable, so I don't have to move. I do need to add or subtract away from that variable. So I'm subtracting 30. So 0.20 m is greater than 15. And then remember, my last step is to multiply or divide. So I need to divide both sides by 0.20. So 15 divided by 0.20 is 75. If they ask you, they might tell you, like, leave it like this, m is greater than 75. Or they might ask for words. So your miles need to be greater than 75, which could also be said anything more than or greater than 75 miles.